Hello, everybody. And we're really sorry we're just a few minutes late. We just had a few technical difficulties, but we're here now. So my name is Beth Flanagan and my company is Mind Your Assets Accounts, and I'm an accountant, as many of you know, and I use Float Cashflow software. So I thought, let's do a live and let's get somebody from Float on this live. So we've got Josh with us now. So we're going to be talking all things Cashflow. We've even got a fantastic demo that Josh himself is going to be doing. But first of all, please, in the comments, can you just tell me where you're watching from? As in location-wise, if you like, or whether you're watching on Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, because we're using StreamYard today, so we're all over the internet. If you're watching this on after the event, if you can just reply in the comments with #replay, that would be fantastic. And whilst we've got the expert here, ask away any questions you would like for Josh to answer whilst we've got him here on this live. So let's get started then. So I've introduced myself. I forgot to say that I'm Yorkshire Accountant of the Year. I think I've said that about 65 million times already since Thursday, but I'm not getting fed up of saying it. I'm going to keep saying it till next year, till the 2022 winners announced. So, but yes, Josh, if you would like to introduce yourself, please.
Absolutely, yeah. So my name is Josh Horseman. I'm the Partner Success Manager at Float. Float is cash flow forecasting and management software for small businesses. And my role really is primarily to work with our new customers in terms of onboarding, getting them set up with Float, providing that kind of training and sort of support, especially in the early stages, getting started on your cash flow journey, and also to work with accountants and our accounting partners like Bev. Bev, it really is a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me on, and again, huge congratulations on the award, the big win as well.
Thank you. We've even got our Float t-shirts on today, haven't we? Look, we're matching.
We do. We're representing, and really appreciate you donning it for the occasion.
It's as if we planned it.
I'm glad you got the memo, Bev.
So I can see a few people watching already, so thank you very much. Don't forget to keep commenting, and especially let's use and abuse Josh while we've got him for any questions that you may have about Cashflow, and in particular the Float software, so that he can help you and advise you. But so cash forecasting, I mean, it's a little bit obvious, but why you should do it. But a lot of businesses still don't do it. And I see like smaller businesses as well that don't think they need to do it, but absolutely they do. I mean, everybody knows that saying, don't they, cash is king? Well, it really is, because without cash in your business, how can you operate? There's a lot of unexpected things that can just happen around the corner, i.e. COVID's just happened. We all didn't expect that, and how long that had gone for, and how that affected many, many businesses' cash flow and their business and indeed their personal lives. But, for us, cash flow is just so important. But can you expand on it a little bit, Josh? And have you got any like real life scenarios that you've seen from clients?
Yeah, absolutely. You're totally right, Bev. I think, we've seen more than ever in the last couple of years how important it is to be forecasting your cash and to planning for the future. I think, COVID took everybody by surprise, and nobody could have been prepared for that. But, some people were better prepared than others, and some businesses were better prepared than others. And I think, having that visibility and having your bookkeeping and your accounting information in a place where you can get a better picture of the future is useful at any time, but particularly in COVID times. I think something that's obviously really important that you highlighted there, Bev, is how important it is for businesses when things like COVID take hold. And businesses, especially small businesses that might be really going through a really tight spot. Anyway, but it's also, something that we see a lot of float is, businesses that are more cash rich, that have a lot of cash in the bank. But at that point, it's, cash flow forecasting becomes a planning tool in terms of, well, we've got all this cash, what are we going to do with it? Where are the opportunities going forward? Where can we reinvest this cash? Where can we grow? And how can we do that? How quickly can we do that? What can we afford to do? When should we, raise investment, for example? When should we take out a loan? Those kind of questions. It's, cash flow forecasting and management is something that I think we found at Float anyways is vital for any business, whether you've got lots of cash in the bank or whether you've got next to nothing in the bank and you're in your overdraft and you're struggling. And I don't know if that's what you've seen with your clients as well, Bev.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there as well. It's not just about seeing if you're going to run out of cash, which is obviously crucial, but yeah, it's on the flip side as well. If you are cash rich, and what you should do with that rather than just leaving it sat in the bank. So yeah, that's really good. But more what my clients want to see is, which I know you're going to go through in the demo, is like scenario planning. So what if scenarios, which is so easy to look at when you're using a cash flow forecasting software, because you've got your base forecast there, and then you can layer on top, can't you? And what if I take on another member of staff? What if I move offices? What if my biggest client leaves us, and things like that? So that's the beauty of doing it, I think. And yet people still can do it in Excel. No, I'm sorry, I'm swearing at you there, Josh, but people can not do it. People can do it on the back of a cigarette packet, but what's the point in that? Why mess about doing it in Excel to start with? Because you've got the human errors there anyway. It's not a spreadsheet, it's not perfect. And with technology these days, everything's in the cloud. As everybody knows, we particularly love QuickBooks. There are other softwares out there like Xero, etc. But we are a QuickBooks practice, and by having your accounts up to date, this is just sort of the next step, isn't it? Adding that other software, such as yourselves, Float, that just synchronizes with it. And that's the beauty of all these apps. They just synchronize beautifully together, and it picks up the information. Obviously, if you put rubbish in, you get rubbish out. So your books have got to be in real time and up to date for it to be able to give you an accurate forecasting prediction and things like that. But they just go hand in hand, don't they, really? Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Yeah, it really is amazing that, there are a lot of businesses that are flying blind in this era, where, as you say, there's so much to be gained and so much out there through utilizing and leveraging the cloud, and not just for forecasting, but as you say, even just giving you that visibility in the first place on your data, things like receipt bank, things like obviously just using QuickBooks or Xero. I don't know if I can say that in your. You
can say Xero, that's fine. We do use Xero as well.
But leveraging these tools, and that it sets you up then to be able to get deeper insights into your business. To then use things like Float, things like Fathom forecasting softwares on top of all that. But you've got to have that kind of foundation, and I think I'm sure that's something that you're telling your clients day in, day out.
Yeah, and it's not, and they don't have to just rely on their accountant either. Like, business owners can use the cash flow forecast themselves if they want to. They don't have to run it with their accountant, although it's a good idea to do that. So you can liaise with your accountant or your bookkeeper. But yeah, all these softwares, like, I've been in accounts a long time, 20 odd years, and clients could never even see their own accounts because everything were on desktop, or never mind now all the apps, like I said, that synchronize together, like you just mentioned, Receipt Bank, now called Dext, and all the others, QuickBooks, Xero, Sage. There's just tons that as long as your books are up to date, there's so much valuable information that you can get out from using these separate apps. And they don't cost the earth neither. That's the other thing as well. Like, I think people think, oh, it's another subscription to something, but the value we get out of it way exceeds, the tiny little cost. But should we just get cracking and get you doing a demo to show everybody?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm always happy to do a demo.
Perfect. So if you share your screen, that would be amazing.
Sure. Just bear with me 1 second.
Yeah, and bear with me, everybody. By the way, this is new software for me, so if it starts going funny, I'll make it better quickly.
It's I think you're an expert compared to me, Bev. It's something I've used before. Can you? Yeah, you should be able to then share my screen.
Look at that. Did it?
There we go. First time. Can you see that okay, Bev? Is it looking
I
okay
can
from your
see it
side?
okay. If everybody else, can you see it okay? If you can just let us know in the comments to make sure that you can see us both and see Josh's screen.
So Float is, we call it visual cash flow forecasting and management software because it is so visual. I know, Bev, you mentioned Excel there, and a lot of people are forecasting in Excel, and that's totally fine. But it's really hard to get from Excel is a visual picture of how your business is trending, and not to mention kind of the manual side of inputting and getting that information into one place. I'm sure you know that struggle, Bev, and I'm sure maybe a lot of people watching will know that struggle. But what Float does, first of all, is it pulls everything in for you from your accounting software. So assuming that you're using QuickBooks or Xero or Free Agent, some cloud accounting software, Float puts the information in one place for you. So what we can see here is, if we look into the top, if we look into at the top of the screen there, and if I don't click on that, if you look at the top of the screen there, you can see your total balance in Xero. So that's just your total balance of all the bank accounts that we're including in our forecast. You can see which bank accounts are included as well. And that's just pulled directly from Xero, so it's always up to date. Float's keeping itself up to date. We can see when the last sync was with our accounting software, either QuickBooks or Xero, and you can see that was an hour ago. So it's live and up to the minute and giving you that information right at your fingertips. And just to highlight again, I know we talked about it before, Bev, but how important being on top of your bookkeeping is, and having that data in a good place in the first place, that information in order to get a good sort of visual picture of the future. And we can see here things that aren't reconciled yet in Xero, and Float prompts you then to go back into Xero and do that reconciliation, because whatever you put in, Float is a great tool, and there are other great tools for forecasting, but they all rely on how accurate data is in the first place. And I'm sure most yourself and most of the people watching are on top of their reconciliation, but it is really foundational to getting the most from software like Float.
Just before you move on to the next bit, Josh, so Ben Kelly on Facebook has just said he's just joined and he wants to know what this software is. It can see it. Is this something different to what Dext can do for you? Yes, it is, Ben. So Dext, formerly it was called Receipt Bank. That's a way to get your expenses and all your receipts into your accounting software. That's like OCR recognition, where it looks at all the so it pulls through like the invoice number, the invoice name, etc., and that pulls through to your software. Flow is a cash flow forecasting tool that synchronizes with your Xero or your QuickBooks to give you a cash flow, which Josh is just showing us now.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better, Bev. I think Dext works really well with Float, because Dext provides better quality of information that then Float can use for your forecast. So what we can see, we talked before, I'd mentioned just about that manual kind of side of things, that manual work that's involved in trying to forecast from a spreadsheet, or trying to understand how much cash you've got or might have from a spreadsheet. And Float kind of really automates that. It pulls everything just through directly from your accounting software, so you don't have to think about, what have I got invoiced or what bills have come in, because Float just pulls them all through from your accounting software. And we can see those on the side. We can see which invoices we've got to be updated. And if I click into this screen here, it's going to bring me to my invoices page. And in Float, it just shows us all the invoices that we've got currently due. And we can then manage those. So if I scroll down here, you can see all the invoices pulled through from my accounting software, and I can then click in, see what this invoice is for, pulled straight through, know exactly what this is about, and then I can say, well, when are we going to receive this invoice? We can manage the expected payment dates and keep things up to date, and that's just going to give us a more accurate forecast. So it's a crucial part of forecasting. It's understanding when your cash is going to come in and when you're going to pay your bills. And we can do that in Float really simply. We can see that this bill here at the top is, this invoice is, we're expected that on the 12th, we haven't received that. We can just adjust this and say, well, when are we expecting that cash? And move that super straightforward, 2 clicks. And you push that out in your forecast, get a more accurate forecast, and we'll have a much better picture of what things are going to look like going forward. You can also do things like we can exclude invoices if it's something that we just don't know when we're going to get that cash. We don't have that information. Exclude it for now and go ahead without it, and then factor that back in once you have more information. Super straightforward. Float's also going to highlight to you which invoices are outstanding, And again, really helpful if you want to then go and chase those up. You know which ones you need to focus on. Does that give a good overview from the invoices side, Bev?
Yeah, definitely. Because like you've said, that pull, as long as your books are up to date in your accounting software, that pulls the outstanding bills and invoices for your sales and your purchases straight through to Flow in real time and tells you exactly what's outstanding. And then, for example, if you've got a customer invoice, I mean, hopefully nobody's got this scenario, but if you've got an invoice that you've got that's in query and you're a bit doubtful that they're going to pay you, you can exclude it from your cash flow because you don't think it's going to get paid, or vice versa, the other way around. You've got a bill in there that you're not going to pay for whatever reason, so you can take it out. And it's so good that the flexibility that you can change the payment date. So this was going to get paid this week, but now the customer's told me that they're not going to pay until 2 weeks' time. So then you can change it in there, and then that gives you that visual graph and it moves it along. So it's brilliant. I love that bit about it.
Yeah, it's a really great point. It's real time. As soon as you update that payment date, it's going to update your forecast. And again, it works exactly the same way with bills. I just see all my bills here and I can update them and say, well, when are we going to pay this? You know, maybe we can pay it now. Great. Or maybe we need another week and we need to push that out, the payment date out. But any changes that you make here, as soon as we go to our main forecast in the cash flow tab, that's going to keep our forecast nice and up to date and accurate, based on the real-time information, and based on what we've updated float. So we can see here on our main sort of dashboard here, we can see a picture not only of the future, but also first of all of the previous 6 months. And that's really helpful because we can see, okay, well, what has happened, and we can use that to then inform the future going forward, inform what plans we make for going forward as well. I'm sure something that's maybe really important in kind of the conversations you might have with clients, Bev.
Yeah. So you can see the pink bits there. That's where a client potentially could run out of cash. A business could run out of cash.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What Float's doing is, and if I change it to a weekly view, we see it a bit more easily. But what Float's doing is just highlighting any upcoming cash gaps, any gaps where our cash is going to dip below zero in the bank. Looks like we're going in for a tough time for this business a little bit going forward. But we can see as well, we've got visibility on when does our cash dip below zero, for example. So in this threshold at the top, we can set a threshold and say, well, we just want to know when our cash falls below zero, and we can see when that is, and it's on the 15th. And so we might want to then make some plans going forward to look at, well, what could happen and what might we do in that situation. So Float, there's two kind of distinct parts that I see to Float. And the first one is giving us this visibility, highlighting these upcoming cash gaps, but also opportunities where you've got quite a lot of cash. And then there's the planning element, and we get into scenarios like we were talking about before, Bev, and looking at, well, what could we do? Could we take out a loan? Could we take on more staff? And what would that do if we do that? What might that look like for our cash flow? And that's where Float almost moves into being a planning tool and helping you to then plan for going forward.
And it's perfect how visual it is, because you can, like, even people that don't like numbers, which everybody should, obviously, but even if you don't like numbers, you don't even have to look at the numbers underneath. You can see that graph and you can see, right, January, February looks a little bit tough, so we need to act now so that doesn't happen. So you can clearly see it straight away. Absolutely.
I just want to go really quickly to a question, I think from Jamie in the comments there. And what happens to income which hasn't happened yet, or things which I guess which aren't yet in your accounting software? So where you don't have a bill or an invoice, but you know, for example, that a guest is going to pay, or you know that you're expecting sales, or you know you're going to pay for that advertising campaign, and that's where we utilize what we call budgets in Float. And budget means a lot of things, but in Float it's basically a cash budget, and you'd set that as a placeholder in your forecast. So this forecast on the graph here would be shaped by our budgets that we've set going forward, as well as those invoices and bills. And those budgets basically are going to act as a placeholder, and they'll get filled up like a bucket with all of our actuals as they come through. So you'll set a budget initially, like we did, for example, in our sales in September. I don't know if you can all see that, but that 12,800 figure there, that's our budget. And that 5191 is what's actually been invoiced so far for September. So if I click into that, then what we'll see in our sales line, hopefully in a second, is our budgets here. So we've got some budgets set that we set based on what we thought think our sales will be like. And then we can see here what's due. So anything that's been due or a draft invoice, we can include in float as well. And so we can see what's due for the month versus what we've actually budgeted for the month. And so we can see we're still expecting probably another 7,500 in the month, and that might come through in payments later on, or other invoices that might be raised. I don't know if that makes sense, Bev. Keep me right if there's anything else.
Yeah, that sounds like it makes sense.
There.
The 12,000 monthly budget, you said that's come through. Which one is it that's come through from the software? That's the 5,000 one, isn't it? The 5191. That's from invoices from the software that's linked to this, but the cash has already come in.
These are invoices that are due because this is September, so these are all the due invoices. Once we get into September, we might get payments come through, and that they'll be paid here. They'll appear in the paid. So paid plus due is going to stack up against your budget. And
that's where you go onto the other tab like you did before, and then you can manipulate the date if you know they're not going to pay or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So if anything changes and that invoice now isn't going to be paid in September, you can update that, and that will update in your cash flow. To give you an example of a previous month, if we look at August, our budget there was 12,800, and what we actually have been paid was 16,061. I guess August isn't actually over yet. It feels like it's been a long month. But if I click into here, we might see some examples of invoices being paid. My laptop's being really, really slow. I'm not quite sure why that is.
And just while you found it, yeah.
There we go. So this is everything that's been paid so far in August, and you can see those payments coming through, the bank transactions coming through, and the invoice payments. So hopefully that answers your question, Jamie, about how we deal with income or anything that's not factored in yet to your accounting software in the form of an invoice or a bill.
So Ben's also said that he's just doing a business plan as well, which is great. And can it help as part of that? Because he believes that's all the projections he has. But yeah, absolutely, this can massively help with a business plan, 100%. That you're forecasting your cash in and cash out, definitely. Are you going to show my favourite bit with the scenarios? Because I love this bit.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. So once we've basically put our budgets into float and we've managed our invoices and bills, we stay on top of things. We've got a base forecast here, and your base forecast is like I mentioned before, giving you that visibility on what's going to happen going forward, all things hopefully being equal. And then scenarios is where float moves into more of a planning tool. So what could the future look like? And that's where we can say, well, what happens if, for example, we take on a new hire, and then maybe your forecast might shift and look a little bit like this. If it's going to show. My laptop's really, really frozen right now. But hopefully it's going to show. Sorry, Bev.
It's all right.
Am I cutting out a little bit?
No, it's fine. You just can't see the thing on the screen yet, though.
It's making that noise. When your laptop sounds like it's going to take off. There we go.
There you go. You can see it now.
Mm-hmm. So, for example, if we were going to take on a new salesperson, we can see, well, what would that look like? What impact might that have on our cash flow versus our base forecast? And how different would that make the future? So, for example, would that help us? The answer is probably not going to help us too much with these upcoming sort of cash gaps here. But there may be other things then that we can do. So maybe then, we could maybe take out a loan, and what might that look like? And I think I've got one for that as well. If we took out, for example, the recovery loan scheme, what might that look like? Again, just give it a wee second to load. Bev, are you, in terms of scenarios, what kind of some examples that you would see with clients in terms of things that you would want to plan for?
A lot of the time it's if they take a member of staff on. So if they take can I afford to take a member of staff on? We see all the time. Sometimes it's company cars or vehicles that they want to buy, or assets that they want to buy. If I buy this asset, what's that going to do to my cash flow? We see that quite a lot, but mainly it's the employees. Or we've had certain scenarios where if they want to take on another office in another location, right, what's that going to do? Obviously, we know that the cash flow is going to go down because you've got expenses, but because you've got another location, your sales should go up. So then we can predict what the sales would be for having that extra office or that extra workshop and stuff like that. So we see stuff like that, really, you know, real life scenarios for small business owners that can come across to them. Another one as well is, this is definitely a what if, but what if, like I said at the beginning of the live, what if my biggest client leaves? What's that going to do to my cash flow? Can I still carry on my business if my biggest client leaves? Can I still afford to pay my staff and my rent? So that's another one as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, but it's not just about, you know, planning for the good things and planning for growth, but it might also be, yeah, you're totally right. What if we lose that customer? Or what if, you know, there's another lockdown? Was another one that, particularly at sort of the start of the year when we were in that strange period where there was almost a new lockdown every week, or the rules were changing constantly. Float was something that a lot of it.
Oh, have we lost you, Josh? I think his internet's gone. I think he's in Scotland. What's going on with the internet in Scotland? Hopefully he'll come back in a minute. But yeah, hopefully you can see and understand how powerful using Float is in conjunction with a software like QuickBooks, Xero, Sage, etc. You know, how powerful it is that you can see the baseline, as he said, and you can get those budgets in going forward. So you start off with connecting it to your software. That knows the actual bank balance as at the time that you connect it, which is great, because if that's all up to date, that's perfect, because you'll have already synchronized your bank with your accounting software. So we know that that's spot on. He's gone, look, see, he's left me. But then, so obviously then you've got that cash coming through. You know that that's accurate, that the cash is accurate because it's coming from your software that's synced to your banks. Then you know that it's pulling through your bills, all the purchases that you've got. You know it's pulling through all the invoices, your sales invoices that you've got in your software. You then manipulate it, like Josh showed us, to whether we keep it as in like that invoice is payable to us in 30 days, or you think actually they're a bit rubbish, that customer, they usually pay us on 60 days. So I'm going to make it and manipulate it in the Float software app that they're going to pay in 60 days, because there's no point putting it in 30 days, because I know for a fact they won't pay till 60 days. Although you shouldn't let that happen. If your terms are 30 days, make them pay 30 days. But it's good that you've got that flexibility to be able to change it. And then you just set your budgets going forward then. So you've got your actuals, you set your budgets going forward. Like if you've got fixed fees, like if you've got rent and you've got staff, you get those budgets in, and that goes into the base, which is in Float software. And then you can see on that graph that he showed us, the actual graph where it shows you all the up and the down and all the spikes of all the money's in goes up, all the money's down, it goes down. And then you can do the scenario planning, which I think is absolutely brilliant. I've just not seen another software that does it that good and shows you that good in that graphical format, and it does it in different colors. So you can see the baseline, then it layers on top of that base, so that you can see the what if scenarios, like we've just said. What if your major client leaves? What if I want another office location? What if I want another member of staff? And you can actually see how that will affect your cash flow. And another great thing, like Josh said as well, is that you can see if you're ever going to run out of cash, which fingers crossed you won't, or you can set a level to say, I never want my cash flow to go below £10,000, for example. So it's just such a brilliant software. And I wouldn't wear the T-shirt if I didn't think it was a brilliant software. But it really is a good software. But it's only good if your bookkeeping is up to date. If your bookkeeping is not up to date, it will drag through information that's not relevant and it's not accurate and not up to date and not live. So I'm not going to swear on this, but yes, as I always say, my team will say, no, I say this all the time. If you put rubbish in, I usually say another word for rubbish, but I won't say it. If you put rubbish in, you're going to get rubbish out. So your first port of call is you've got to make sure that your bookkeeping software is smack bang up to date. And what I mean by that is that all your sales invoices are in, you're up to date with your sales invoicing, which I see quite a lot that people are behind with the sales invoicing. I don't understand that. As soon as you get invoicing out to your customers, the quicker you get your money in. So make sure your sales invoices are up to date. If there's one thing you've taken away from this, get your sales up to date. Purchases, make sure you've got all your bills in there as well, which you can use another software you can put in manually, or you can use another software such as Dext, which used to be called Receipt Bank, as we mentioned earlier. And then you can start adding other apps like Float to get your cash flow done. But Josh was my next question to Josh was, how do they get started with Float? But obviously he's gone. The internet's gone. I don't know what's happened. But if anybody wants to have a play in the demo company, let me know. If anybody wants a trial in it, please let me know. If anybody wants Josh to give them a separate demo, because he's told me that he'll do a demo for anybody that wants it, please also let me know, and hopefully his internet will be working a little bit better at that point. But yeah, so that's it for now. We've just been on for about 35-40 minutes. I could talk about this all day, but hopefully you've got some use from this live, and hopefully you got everything that Josh showed you just before his internet went down. But we're live, so these things happen, don't they? You can't help it. These things happen. But anyway, if you have any questions about cash flow or accounting or anything to do with Flow and the software, please let me know. Have a good day. See you soon. Bye-bye.